I have got a PhD in life. I'm spending my whole weekend in my pajamas and I'm not doing shit. You don't pay my bills or suck my dick. So like, what do I care what some random person on the internet thinks of me? And new year, new me, you gotta have some fun. God, Tim, everything you touch just like is amazing. And I want to tell that person, no the fuck it's not. I'm only trying to make one fucking person happy, and that's Tim Castleman.
What up, everybody? It's your boy, Tim Castleman. Of course, the second I start recording, my phone goes off. Stupid. Let's turn that around so our ADHD doesn't get all over us. You know, I was watching a podcast, video podcast on YouTube where I spend most of my life these days, and the guy had to do the wrestling intro, and, you know, in big, exaggerated face, and I was just thinking, oh, God, does he know what he looks like? I mean, because if he did, surely he wouldn't do that every single time with the camera on. All that to say, I don't know if this is ever going to become a video podcast. Speaking of video, I wish I was a video podcast, because then it would have told me, hey, dumbass, you're wearing headphones for your computer that you can't even hear out of when you record because you're not recording into your computer. Nope. Man, last episode, it's been a while since I've recorded. I got to be honest with you. I've had a nice little break, unintentional, and here's why. First of all, 420 episode. I don't even know. That episode was so wild in terms of that edible hitting me and me just feel like I can't even remember half the shit I said on that. So if I was wilding out on that one, you know, you can thank whatever genius invented 50 milligram gummies for you to take on 420. And you're like, oh, I'll record a podcast. This will be cool. And then by the end of it, you're drooling, you know, and you're just like, what's going on? I don't understand. You spend the next 2 days in bed. So yeah, it's been kind of wild. I got sick. I'm still sick. Get that real breathy cough, right? That COPD that's developing in my lungs because I refuse to stop smoking hashish, right? The stickiest, the ickiest. I refuse to stop. Just the all-day hits to the brain, and as a result of that, I've got a pretty cool chest infection. You know, whatever, I don't know. I just was feeling like shit. My voice sounded like I had taken 10 dicks to the throat, smoked 12 packs of cigarettes, you know, gargled with glass, and then screamed for 2 hours into a microphone every day. So I didn't think you guys would appreciate that. So I said, you know what? Let's take a pause. Let's regenerate. Let's just feel better. Let's just go in our cocoon. So I took a couple days off of the sticky icky, and I'm feeling much better even though stuff keeps coming out. I'm like, why? What is going on here? It is amazing your body's ability to just be like, oh, you're sick? Here's all the mucus you could ever want in an entire decade in 3 days, right? You like constantly feeling like your chest is going to explode and you're and then if you take some of that cold medicine, especially if it's got expectorant, which means it's going to make you cough, like, dude, by the end of the day, you're like, did someone beat the shit out of me today? And it's like, it's just your chest being like, no, we have been forced to spew all this shit up, and that's why it hurts, because the muscles that you never exercise that probably aren't even really muscles, you're just a pussy, Tim. That's what that medicine says, right? You know what is not pussy is my friends who play, they're musicians, right? And they're great people, and musicians get treated like shit. You know, I know you see the high-end stuff with, you know, like Morgan Wallen and stuff like that, and you're like, oh, these guys fly private, you know, they have groupies. Yeah, okay, at that level, they do get treated really well, but there's 98% of the people that don't even sniff the jockstrap of that level, and that's where my friends are. And that's not a dig on them. That's just they're building their careers and they're following. You know, they're doing the work, man. It's like stand-up comedy. They're like, you will suck dick for 10 years, and then you might get good. Imagine that. Imagine that going to school for 10 years and not even being guaranteed. It's like, yeah, you could suck at the end of those 10 years. You could get to that 10-year point and go, hey, this isn't for me. You know, so you could do that. Musicians, the same way. You could spend I know guys that spent their 20s in a, you know, 12-passenger van and retired because they got their girlfriend pregnant, or they decided they wanted a job that actually could make some money. They got tired of the road, you know, family, whatever it may be. There are people every single day that I see in the music industry getting picked off by life. Big bands that are national headline touring bands are like, you know, putting out Facebook requests of like, Is there a bass player that, wants to play our music? Because we can't find one. Because all those people went and got money from the government. It's not a bad thing. We gave billions of dollars to companies. We can give $300, $400 to a struggling musician a month to get them through. Then they went, maybe got a job, maybe they got some training, or maybe they just got home and said, man, I really like this home shit. I don't really like that tour life where I'm spending 22 hours of my week, in a van with 5 smelly other dudes where my feet are cramped to my chest, especially if, God forbid, I'm tall, playing for a couple $100 for the whole band. That's not the life that I think ultimately I want to lead. So my friends, we're getting back on track there, are local musicians, and, they're playing a lot of gigs for restaurants, and the problem with those are they're several $100s, which is nice pay for a duo. Let's say it's $300 for a duo, but they're like 3 and 4 hour long gigs, which, dude, that fucking sucks. There's no way to say any other way. There's nothing I like doing for 4 hours continuously, especially a strenuous activity, right? Like, you want to have sex for 4 hours? Like, I do not. No, I want to get you to get yours, then I'm going to get mine, and we're going to go sleep, okay? Be like, oh, baby, that was so long. That is something they will never say about me in size or stamina, okay? They'd be like, oh, that's kind of disappointing. Be like, well, I don't know. I got mine. I hear you. I understand your disappointment. I don't want you to feel like I'm a woke man or a non-woke man. I hear you. If I understand you correctly, you were disappointed with my sexual prowess and the fact that you did not reach climax, and I did. Is that correct? Yes. Well, I feel like I got mine, and you can go fuck yourself. Now, see, that's all therapy, and up until the last 3 words, you can go fuck yourself. 5 words. Did I almost make yourself 2 words? Yes. Am I totally sober? Kinda. Yeah. Am I on edibles? No. Anyway, all of that's healthy therapy language until the end, right? And these musicians are going to need some therapy because they went out, they played a 3-hour gig at an outdoor patio. It's currently 104 degrees in Lubbock, Texas. It was 107 degrees yesterday. And apparently, with a 3-hour gig, they're allowed to have 2 15-minute breaks. So they took those together after playing for 2 straight hours. Then they went up to the bar. They got their burger that the bar authorized, and they drank water. Now, I trust my friend, okay? He's not a embellisher or a bullshitter. He's not. So when he tells me him and his buddy drank 12 waters only and had a burger, I believe him. They went out, they played the last 30 minutes, they close up shop, they settle up shop. They go to the manager goes, hey, we got a little problem with your pay. You see, normally we pay you $300, but tonight the general manager was in here and he saw y'all just, eating a cheeseburger and drinking your waters for 30 minutes. So he told me, we got to dock your pay $50. Because these 2 grown adults, I want to be clear, these aren't children, okay? These are men with wives and kids, needed to take a break from an outdoor, probably uncovered show where it's 107 degrees. And one of the guys, I love him, gentle giant, but he's bigger than me, not only in length, but also in not only in height, but also in width, right? I'd have been out there for 10 minutes and broke my guitar over the general manager's head and been like, we're out of this. I'm out the music business, right? Like, you got to grind. You got to really love it. It's like, no, look, just because I want to do something doesn't give people carte blanche to, like, rub your fucking nose in the dirt or treat you like a non-human being. And my retort to them, social media is a great thing, was, hey, if you had a dog, say you had a black lab, and it's 107 degrees out, would you put that dog in the direct heat for 3 continuous hours, deny it access to food and water? If you did that, someone took a TikTok or a Snapchat or a video of it and blew it up on social media, there would be an outrage. People in pitchforks and, would be trying to find that puppy, find the owner, and they would be genuinely shamed on how they treated an animal. Yet if we do it to a human being, it's okay. Not only that, imagine doing that to the dog, and then you finally let the dog in, and you go, well, hey, listen, since I had to let you in early because you were whining and crying because it was so hot out there, I'm only going to give you half your food. I know I normally feed you this amount. Oh, did I mention, by the way, that my buddies had played this bar for 2 years continuously? So now that word is getting out, of course, do you think that the blame, and do you think that I don't want to say the blame, it's a better way to say it. Do you think that the company is stepping up and acknowledging their mistake and their error and saying, hey, we screwed up here, let's go ahead and pay these guys? I mean, think about it. For $50, they're getting probably a few hundred people posting about this or viewing it. Not a few hundred people posting about it. Let's say a dozen people posting about it, yours truly included. They have like 7, 8, 9 negative reviews already. Musicians that are like, yeah, we're not playing there. So you would think all of that, they would wave the white flag and come out and say, hey, we fucked up, didn't understand, there was a miscommunication, oopsie doopsie, here's $50, here's another 50 on us. You guys are booked in on Tuesday, and you know what? We're going to give you an extra 15 minutes because we're human beings. You see, people go, well, people don't want to work. It's like, people don't want to be treated like shit. And imagine that. Imagine that as someone knocks on my door. Excuse me 1 second. And we're back. Why do they do that? They're still at the door. I'm a big Dan Kennedy fan. If I don't invite you, don't show up. If you're friends, your family, great. But some random person knocking on my door, absolutely not. Will my dogs bark at you so you can't come back and steal shit later? 100%. It's a tough job. I'm so sorry you have to do it. But don't knock on my door. Don't ring my doorbell. Don't do anything. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to buy whatever it is you're buying. I'm not selling it. Knock all you want like they are. Ring the doorbell. We're not doing shit. If you need something, you leave me a note. You say, Mr. Castleman, I'm with blinds company, and I'd like to talk to you today about your. I don't give a shit. Just like this general manager who didn't give a shit about these musicians. And this is what bothers me. Again, people are like, well, people just don't want to work. No, people want to work. They just want to be treated well. Minimum wage, $7.25 for 13 years. Inflation, 8%, 7%, whatever percent it is. Home prices, ridiculous. And I'm not saying give it all away. It's also funny. It's like, well, all those people took all that free stimulus money. It's like, that wasn't free. We're paying that back as taxpayers. And guess who else took stimulus money? The businesses, corporations. They all got paid. So why is it okay for one but not the other? We just gave $40 billion in humanitarian aid to Ukraine, but we couldn't pass a $28 million bill to get more FDA inspectors, right? There was a gas gouging bill because gas is out of control. I don't know the specifics of the bill, okay? So, do your own research for the love of God. But what happens? They don't pass it, right? It's like, oh, well, we can't take away from our corporate donors. It's like we want to do everything we can to help the American public except help the actual American public. And that's on both sides. Again, I'm talking about musicians. I'm talking about politics. I'm going to just fucking wear everybody off here. Tim, why don't you talk about business? Well, I've been doing some more product photography. Don't hate it. Finally got my fucking studio set up. Now I got to redo it because I did it wrong. That's me. It happens all the time. I didn't do it wrong. It's just a different setup my Sifu recommends, right? And I was like, yeah, sure. I bought all this shit. I guess I should use it. He's like, yeah, you should. I'm like, all right, great. Good talk. Good. Thanks. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to fucking use it. And that's fun. I'm learning some fun stuff. Got to go do a produce shoot, and that was interesting. Like I had to go buy some produce at a garage store, at a grocery store. How long has it been since I've been outside? I don't know. It's 104, and I got a hoodie on, and I'm like, man, I'm kind of warm, and I'm almost going to go turn the fan on overhead. I won't because the audio will hate me. The audio people that don't exist but do exist will hate my guts for this, right? So my buddy, he owns Burn Vodka. It's a habanero infused vodka. And I told him, hey, I want to take some photos of your new Apple product line. It's Apple Burn. Tastes like apple, like, Jolly Rancher candy apple is what I would say. Well, he gave me those things months ago. And sickness, depression, travel, don't want to fucking do it, needed to buy everything in order to feel like I was good enough to be able to do this, overwhelmed myself, got upset, swore off product photography for life, thought I'd never want to pick my camera up again, bought another camera just to get me motivated that probably won't ever use, and I'll be like, that was wasted fucking money. Thinking about buying my 6th guitar because this one will be different because left-handed, right? These are all the thoughts that go through my very calm and rational brain. And I'm sure when you hear them, they come out organized and well thought out, and they certainly don't seem someone that's manic and that has all of these things going on at once, along with personal drama, which I can't talk about. Just because I'm choosing not to at this point. I want to give it some time. Comedy is trauma. This wasn't trauma, right? Let's switch that. Comedy is tragedy or aggravation plus time. Instead of always having to say trauma, right? I was diddled as a kid. Here's what was funny about it. It's like, what? Like, I don't think, it's like, hey, some of the shit can just not be talked about, You just write it in a little notebook and the world never has to hear about it. It's wild like that. So these motherfuckers get docked $50 and sent on their way. But before they leave, they talk to the manager, and the manager goes, yeah, okay, cool. We're not going to book you back here anymore over this. Did I mention they had played there for 2 years consecutively with no issues? First time they bring this up, they're like, yeah, we'll see ya. And then because people thought, well, that's kind of a shitty thing to do, I started mentioning it online. These same musicians have woken up to messages from people who know bookers in town going, yeah, hey, there's like 3 or 4 restaurants that are that you're blacklisted from. Because you wanted to eat and drink water during your approved break. They didn't take an hour. They didn't do any of that. They take a 30-minute break during a 3-hour session after playing 2 hours consecutively. They lost $50. They can't play at that restaurant anymore, and they also are probably banned from other restaurants, whether they know it or not. And by some will be labeled difficult. But people don't want to work? I mean, who would want to work in that environment? I had something happen this week, which I, again, can't talk about. I want to give it some time. I just think the other person was having a really bad day. I hope that's what it was, but it really pissed me off to the point where I was like, yeah, hey, I think I'm done doing X. The hoodie's coming off. This is also another reason why this won't be a visual podcast, because if you did, you'd see like my, 25 chest hairs from my round of TRT treatment that I did, where I was like, oh my God, my body's actually producing hair. I should have been a man, apparently, at some point. There actually could be chest hair on my body instead of just my legs and my ass. It's like, man, why did that stop, I mean, a thick, luscious bush, front, back. I mean, you want to be warm, put your hands down my pants, grab some of that leg thigh and the hair. You'll be fine, baby. I'll get you through all the storms. But if you had to rely on my upper half for warmth, you would be disappointed. People suck. Not all people, right? This is the life's debate, okay? And I know I'm all over the place, and I don't give a shit. It's my podcast. I'll be all over the place. If you put negative shit in your head, and by the way, I hate this shit because it's like I'm not woo-woo, but this just stuff you hear it, but then when you discover it, you're like, oh, maybe there's something to it, right? I like watching the news, but that shit kind of bums me out. Then you start doing articles and blah, and blah. And if you allow it to, it can have a negative connotation on your day, a negative connotation on your worldview. It's like, I would imagine if you ask most people in the United States, you think we're doing better or worse, they'd probably say worse. Taking the politics out of it. Don't fucking post political comments. I'll nuke you faster than my ex-wife nuked me, right? That's how quick I'll do it. You'll go out for poker one day and come home, and we won't be Facebook official friends anymore, and you'll feel bad about it. So yeah, I think if you allow that stuff and that negativity to come in, then you think of that. I have a pretty pessimistic view of life to begin with. On top of that, I struggle with depression, general motivation, self-worth, self-esteem issues. These are just a few things about me that I'm working on. Plus, past childhood shit that I'm like putting together, It's like, oh, so what you're saying is when your parents get divorced and you're a small child, that I've actually done nothing wrong and I shouldn't be used as a pawn between the two parents like I was. That's new information I'm going to have to process. So you're saying when my dad said, don't give him a mohawk, and then my mom gave me a mohawk because I thought I really wanted a mohawk, which I really did, it was more about fuck you to my father than it was this is what my son wants. This is a new discovery. Let's put that in the brain and see what the brain thinks about that. And then when you guys do parent drop off and it's so bad you have to meet in a central location, do you mean to tell me that my mom shouldn't have taken permanent marker and written, not nice things about my dad on permanent marker on my body? Really? Are you telling me that that's not normal and natural? Let me think about that for a second. And then do you mean to tell me, this is no lie, that sometimes when parents exchange their children, that doesn't result in your biological father slapping the absolute shit out of your mother in front of you, and another time choking her unmercifully behind the vehicle that you could see because you're locked in the middle there, right? Can't do any of that. And you're laying on the horn trying to get anybody, because this elementary school where they did it was 2 blocks away from the house and also surrounded by homes, and I thought, I don't know what to do. It was dark. I was like, I'll hit the fucking horn. Somebody will wonder what the fuck is going on and come out and save my mother from whatever horrible fate she got. I think she definitely got her neck fucked up in that one. But you mean to tell me that these aren't normal human existences and that maybe, just maybe, unconsciously, without even knowing it, I might have observed some general behavior during that time that would still impact me 42 years later? No, man. It can't be that. Right? No. So yeah, it's been a fun summer. This is all stuff, by the way, this is the process. I mean, I don't like it, but it's all necessary. Sometimes you gotta fucking rip those scabs open or dig a little deeper. And it's like, oh, okay, well, that kind of explains it. And then once you're aware, by the way, then the next step is to kind of find your trigger. So a couple months ago when I was flying back from London, quit bragging, flying back from London, wearing the mask, stewardess, I have my mask down. She's like, sir, you need to put your mask up. Dinner time is over. Now that's what she said, calm, cool, reflectively. What I heard was, you stupid motherfucker, I'm telling you to put your fucking mask on and do what I say because I'm the authority figure and you're not. And would you believe that everything I've shared up to this point, there might be some issues with authority. You may not like having to jump through certain hoops in life. So when someone tries to make you jump through said hoop, you immediately lose your shit. That's a trigger. So now, right? So, okay, I notice this pattern is happening in my life repetitively. Cool. Now I've identified the trigger. Cool. Now let's identify what happens, right? Well, I get angry. Anger is a default emotion. Everyone gets angry. Every emotion starts with a default emotion. I'm angry. Okay, well, what are you really? I get it, you're angry, but what's causing that anger? Well, I just didn't appreciate being talked to like that. Okay. Well, what's really behind that? Well, when I was a kid, I observed any time that I fucked up, there were severe consequences. On my dad's side, it was usually, physical. On my mom's side, it was more mental and therefore emotional. And I don't mean that my mom was like a terrible person in terms of she was torturing me like a POW or anything like that. It was just like when you fucked up, somehow, somewhere in my past, okay, and it's not necessarily I have to dig this up and find the exact moment. I think I know what it is. So let me share that with you. So my cousin, Jason, he's probably 10 years, 15 years older than me. I don't know. And we've always had it was always like I was the young kid and he was the cool older cousin that was in high school. And he just, I don't know, he was an awesome dude. So anyway, one day we were playing hide and go seek or we're doing something and his mom wants him to go. And apparently he didn't hear her or didn't listen to her. I don't know. He was a fucking kid. He's a teenager, yes, but still a child. And he was hiding from his mom, who was getting visibly agitated and upset with him. So he hid behind the door when she came in. She was like, Jason, are you in here? And he laughed. The laughter of children, right? Because that's what kids do when they're amused. And his mom, who was middle linebacker weight back in those days, probably not in today's current NFL. She's a solid D2 tackle size and weight, decided to grab the door handle opposite of where he was. So he's behind the door, so she grabs the handle on the front of the door, pulls it close to her, and then puts all of her fucking weight into her own flesh and blood to crush him behind the door because he didn't come when he was called and he didn't stop playing when mama told him to. There was no discussion. There was no, hey, let's talk about this. It was an immediate, you fucked up. Here's your immediate punishment. And let's start this fucking off at level 10. Instead of level 1. So the anger part really was me being worried about, oh shit, I'm in trouble. I've embarrassed myself. I've caused shame. That means I'm about to be punished. So then you lash out at anger, in anger. When really, on the inside, you're a small little child going like, hey, I fucked up. I'm sorry. Please don't hurt me. Now, you mean to tell me that when you had to go get your shots for middle school or when you go up from elementary to preschool, you mean to tell me that you didn't have your father bend you over his knee and spank the absolute shit out of you to the point where you said, hey, just give me the fucking shot because it will hurt less now than the ass whooping that I'm taking. And you're telling me that you didn't show up the next day to school and CPS was waiting there to talk to you? Come on. Come on now. And you mean to tell me that you didn't know CPS so much that you knew the questions they were going to ask ahead of time? And you knew how to do like the photo profile? And you just wanted to be helpful, so you thought, I'll be helpful here. Because then I'll be enough. Because then I'll be worthy. Because then I won't be in trouble. Come on. You didn't experience that? It's normal. I had a normal childhood. Yeah, I mean, sure, my parents hated each other, and there's trauma and physical violence and emotional, everything I've described to you. But isn't that normal? Aren't all childhoods like that, I thought? So, yeah. And then the final step. So, you got your default emotion, anger. Then you know what's really causing it. So you know, hey, when this is triggered, I lash out one way. Then you got to start going, hey, I'm going to try and do this other thing. So next time when that chick says that, this is about to make me, I already feel like I got to get my man card up on this podcast anyway for explaining all this shit. But fuck it, I've gone through a dozen years of therapy, so let me have spent the money to help share with you. And then you go, all right, well, I react, ding, bell, react, response. Ding, bell, react, response. What if next time, instead of lashing out in anger, you just take a breath and you go, I'm okay. I'm not in trouble. I'm not going to get hurt. I'm okay. And then you basically spend the rest of your life trying to do option 2 more than option 1. And you think, well, hey, look, I've got all these steps now. Option 2, we'll just install that new hardware and it'll just fire every time. And no, it won't. In fact, you're going to have to make it fire a lot of the time at the very beginning, at least in my experience. You're also going to fuck up and go option 1. That road may have a road closed sign on it, but it ain't closed. It's still there. I think a lot of people don't do therapy. I know I didn't do therapy, and I didn't want to make some of these changes because I was worried about losing my edge and losing this and losing that. It'll change me. Yes, it will. Remember back in you youngins will have to ask your grandparents about this, but they used to make a printed thing at the end of the year called a yearbook. There were these things called photos and text, and you had to scroll by going and turning page to page. If you wanted to scroll up, you had to go up with your eyes and down. You couldn't, this is paper. Explain that like this is, yeah. They probably still have these fucking things. And people want to be nice to you and they want to say sweet things and they'll be like, Dear Tim, don't ever change. Well, imagine if you took that shit to heart. Right? 6th grade, you're like, all right, well, I fucking peaked. This is me. I like bubble tape. I like, acid wash jeans. I like Converse, Tony Hawk, and, a hoodie. That's my wardrobe. Never going to change it. Never going to update it. I could be 56 and I'm still going to like the same things. Oh, Mom, are we having SpaghettiOs for dinner again? That's awesome. I fucking love SpaghettiOs. Well, curfew's home by midnight, so I got to get home. People evolve. You change. It's okay. It's scary. Because path A or path 1, whatever, is lit so clear. You know exactly what it does and exactly the response it will produce because you've used it over and over. It's like a fine knife that you've honed to a sharpened blade. And I can whittle it this way, I can do this, I can do that. And now you got to go from that A-level mastery all the way back to being like, I'm okay. I am loved. I am not hurt. And respond from there. And just when you think, oh man, I got this thing figured out, bam, option 1 pops back up. Darkness or the light. It all depends on what you feed yourself. The other thing that sucks about this shit, by the way, and if I haven't said this before, you're going to hear me say it till the day I die. Ignorance really is bliss. Because some of the shit you didn't want to know. Because a lot of times, when you're pointing that fucking finger at someone, what you're really trying to do is to get off your issues, your problems, your insecurities. Tim, why would you do that? Because you feel like if you talk about them or identify them or express them, that you get in trouble. And then that whole cycle that we talked about before starts again. So that's why ignorance is bliss, because you don't know about it. But guess what? I already told you about it, so you can't be ignorant no more. Sorry. Shared the poison pill with you, didn't tell you that it was poisoned until after the fact. Am I moving around the audio in the most critical time of the podcast? Yes, I did. Let me say that again so you fucking people won't be angry with the audio quality during the heartfelt message. I gave you the pill. I didn't tell you it was poison because ultimately it's not. It feels like it. going to cause some things to hurt. It's going to cause some things to die off. But if you keep feeding the light, new things shall grow. And in time, what once seemed impossible, set in stone, never going to change, or never going to recover, gets smaller and smaller. I don't have a good analogy for this because I know everyone uses the snowball analogy of being like, it's a snowball. So what you do is when you roll it down the hill, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. We all get how that works, right? But now I want you to do this. I want you to imagine that big ass snowball at the bottom of the hill. Am I going to move the audio again? Yes. Okay? So you got this big ass snowball that represents your problem at the bottom of the hill. It's the biggest, it's so big you can't even put your fucking arms around it. Right? You can't even see the ends of it. You just look up and it looks unimaginably tall to the sides, to the bottom, to the top. You can't even see it all with the naked eye. It looks so fucking huge. But somehow, you're able to get just enough momentum to push that ice and that snowball a little further. But instead of having the ground that was sloping and build, this time it's on rocks. Just solid fucking rocks. And with every push that you can muster, that snowball travels further on those rocks. And every time it touches those rocks, a little bit of that snowball falls away. And suddenly this big, massive, giant snowball, you keep pushing and pushing and pushing. With every push, it's getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Until one day, hopefully, you don't even notice the size of it. Or if you do, you can easily push it aside. That snowball represents problems or challenges in your life. When my wife left me, I never thought, and there are still some days, I never think that I'm going to fully recover from this. Insert Tiger King meme. It seemed insurmountable. How could life go on? How could I continue to live and breathe without a heart working inside of me? And with therapy and time, I pushed the snowball. The rocks, by the way, are life. Because life continues on, no matter what. When I would tell people about my issues, with the divorce and the, getting sued and all those things, man, that really sucks. I'm so sorry for you, bro. Oh, that fucking sucks. I'm praying for you. Oh, man, that sucks. But then those people went on with their lives. The only person's life that stopped was mine. I have a choice. And it's one I struggle with every day. Do I sit inside my house until the bad thoughts take over? Or I just die and, one day my auto payment gets, overdrafted and they send a sheriff to come arrest me for all the hot checks I'm riding around town, not knowing that I've been dead inside my house for like 3 years. By the way, that's a true story if you look it up. Happened to somebody. The only way they found out she'd been dead for 3 years was that her newspaper subscription lapsed because all the money she had finally ran out. Or do we keep doing what we're doing and trying to forge this new path? Trying to be a better person, trying to feel like I'm good enough regardless of my skills and ability, that people like me for who I am versus what I can do for them, and so much more. And that's why my therapist will have a summer home, because that's life. I feel like I am being pushed in a direction where life is closing some doors and has closed several doors for me this year. I feel like I'm being pushed. Not going to call it a calling because it ain't that strong yet, but I definitely feel like I'm being pushed in a direction. And what that direction is and the thoughts around it will have to be for another time, because you guys have probably taken your cyanide by now, and I feel like I'm well over the 30-minute mark. As always, I hope you get something from this. I would love to see your comments. I'd love to see you subscribe. I just would love to hear from people to know that I'm not just broadcasting out to the ether, that we're not like the U.S. government. We're just sending signals out to space. I need an alien to come in once in a while and tell me what's up. Thanks for listening. I'll be back again soon.